Hi everyone, Mike here from Heroes and Bosses, this time with another Nemesis painting guide. This is the soldier hero and the one I've gotten the most requests for to paint. He's also my favorite miniature from the set. I'm starting off with a completely optional step of drilling out the gun barrel. I always start by digging in a starting point with my hobby knife. Just as I did in my other Nemesis videos, I'm breaking this up into two levels of being finished. First is tabletop quality, and then in level 2 I add a few highlights and finishing touches. The first step I took was to prime the miniature in grey. Next I'm using Squig orange to paint the fabric of the flight suit. I'm not exactly sure where the mechanical boots end and the flight suit starts, so I'm just using my imagination here. Next I'm painting what looks like padded armor on the thighs using a greenish brown, Deathworld forest. Now I'm switching to German grey. This color is going to be used in a few places, starting with all the leather straps. I'm also using German grey on the two weapon grips of this gun. Next I'm using gunmetal from Army Painter. I'm going to be using this on the entire body of the gun. There's also a weapon attachment arm on this gun, and I'm going to be using gunmetal on that as well. I'm also going to paint the floor with this color, but first I'm going to paint the soles of the boots using German grey, just to separate it from the floor a bit. Next I'm switching to a slightly lighter silver, plate mail metal, though you could certainly just keep it going with the gunmetal. I'm using this on all of the armor. Now I'm switching back to Deathworld Forest just to paint these gloves. The next color I'm using is the Fang, a light bluish purple, just to add a bit of color to the armor. I'm not going to be painting all of the armor with this, just a few spots like the knee pads, some of the plates on the chest, and the left arm. Next I want to add a little color to break up all the silver on the rest of the miniature. I'm doing this by mixing equal amounts of gold and silver to create a light brass color. I'm going to be putting this on the hydraulics on the boots, the bottom of the gun, and along the spinal plates of the armor. Along the side of the gun there are 6 flat bumps that stick out, and they reminded me of ammo indicators you might see on a gun in a video game. So after painting these white as a base coat, I'm painting 2 of them red, 2 yellow, and 2 green. That's all the base colors on, so next I'm applying a couple washes, starting with Nuln Oil Gloss. I'm putting this on all of the armor, the weapon, and the floor. For everything else, I'm using Agrax Earthshade mixed with a little bit of Lamian Medium. And I just realized I missed a spot of armor here, so I'm going to paint that with the Fang before painting the rim of the base with some more of the German Grey. This is nearly the end of the level 1 paint job, and the final step is the visor. I want this to be a focal point, so I'm painting it a light blue so it stands out, and if you want to stop here, I'd recommend covering the Mini with a layer of matte varnish, but then go back with some gloss varnish just for the visor. Okay, for part 2, I want to spend a bit more time on the visor. I'm going to do a slight jeweling effect using 5 shades of blue, which I've laid out here. The visor's already painted with a 1-to-1 mix of Calgar blue and white, so now I'm using pure Calgar blue and painting the entire visor except the bottom right corner. I'm moving my brush up and away from this corner. Then I'm applying a second layer slightly higher up before switching to the next darkest blue. Then I'm going to repeat this process, moving to the next darkest blue, adding 2 layers, and so on. If there's a clear line between the 2 shades of blue like you see here, grab some of the previous blue and wet blend the edges so that they transition smoothly. It's important that the paints are thin for this. Mine are half water or sometimes more when I do this kind of effect. The last thing I'm doing is adding a bit more white to the lightest color and then painting the very edge of the bottom of the visor. Now I'm going to do a few minor highlights. The first is a reapplication of the Fang blue to the upturned surfaces of the armor plates. I started with the shoulder, then moved on to the left wrist and the plates at the bottom of the visor and the top half of the knee pads. Next I'm doing all the areas that were painted green with Ogryn Camo. I'm using this to pick out the raised bumps of the padded armor as well as doing an edge highlight. With the gloves, I'm picking out any obvious raised areas and adding some definition to the knuckles on the gloves. Next, I'm using a lighter blue for an edge highlight on the blue armor plates. You can add some white to the Fang, or use a different blue like Russ Gray. For the plates in front of the visor, I just decided to paint the entire outward-facing side with a lighter blue. Next, I'm highlighting the orange flight suit using equal parts Squig Orange and Averland Sunset. I'm using a small, flat brush to lightly dry brush on highlights to the folds. After that, I'm using Dawnstone to edge highlight the gun grips and the leather straps. That's all the highlighting done, and now it's time to spray the soldier with a matte varnish and let it dry. The final optional step is to apply a gloss varnish onto the visor. I like to mix Ardcoat with a small amount of water to make sure it goes on smoothly. And there you have it, the soldier from Nemesis. Thank you to all my patrons who support the creation of these videos, and a special thanks to Brian Jones for sponsoring the channel. There's more from Nemesis coming soon, so if you like this video, be sure to turn on notifications, and thank you for watching.
Have you ever been mistaken for a man?
No. Have you?
Oh, gosh, yes. He just too bad.